Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
All right, check one, check two. What are you gonna do? Welcome to the Cannabis Coffee Hour with your host, me, Rob Cantrell, coming to you live from Woodstock, New York, hanging out with the ghost of Levon Helms. This morning, glorious morning in the mountains of the Catskills. I think that's what they're called. I'm looking at them. And I'm looking at a waterfall right now, man. I'm right in the middle of the town, but I'm kind of off the beaten path. And I'm staying at a hotel with my family. And I just wanted to jump on. I'm not going to make this a whole hour. We're looking at about 20 minutes. Because I'm outside and it's cold. But it's kind of like this fire pit area, and there's a whole river, and I hope the sound turns out, but there's a river, a clean stream. I'm in nature. You guys know I love me some nature. Oh, just getting high off this fresh air, and I'm looking at a waterfall, and I have a hot cup of coffee. Hotel coffee in my hand, but they do have an espresso machine. I got the girl to give me a espresso shot, and then I sipped on it, and that was glorious. And then I dumped the rest of it into the hotel coffee. As you know, like the free hotel coffee is always good, but it's always a little watery for my taste. So giving it a shot of espresso really took it up a notch. And now I'm on like I had drank that cup, now I'm on the second cup of the day, where your gut's like, I don't know about this dude, but you're like, yo man, we're gonna rock this. I gotta do a podcast. It's 10:30 in the morning. The family's still asleep. I walked down to the river. I do have some herb, but I gotta drive today, so I don't recommend driving and getting high. So the people, life goes on, and with cannabis, I think society's figuring all that out as we get legal. And I do like to play it safe. Like I'm not into risking shit for no reason. Same thing with COVID, mask up, all that shit. But, I play the middle. I don't go too hardcore. I just try to figure it out from how I feel. That's what last night I just thought about how I feel. Where do I really want to go with all of this cannabis coffee, with all the music, with all the comedy? But it seems supernatural to me. It's just what I like and what I like to do, and I'm just excited about the podcast. I've been listening to this Father John Misty album. It did come out in my algorithm on Spotify. And then I went to my funky little hotel room here in Woodstock, and they had a turntable, which is dope, and they had this like Bluetooth speaker. The whole little setup was cool. But that Father John Misty album is the front thing I saw, and I put it on my Instagram. Check out the Cannabis Coffee Instagram. Like and subscribe, or follow it, I guess. And give me shouts, and tell me what you dig about the podcast, what you don't. I'm enjoying this coffee. I think it was Colombia coffee. That El Colombia, that's a good coffee. It's Italian. The thing is, Italy, man, they got coffee and pizza down. But everybody got their coffee down, but Italy does, I have to say, in terms of espresso, that's their thing. They got the espresso game locked down. And I'm kind of moving into more espressos these days. American coffee does do it for me. I like a good cup. But, as you guys know, I like to mix it up. I like a little seltzer. I do dig that CBD water. The hotel room that I'm staying with has the Recess. I think that's based in New York, because I see it in all these Long Island stores. It's called Recess, and it's really good. It's CBD. And I have to say, I have had it, and it does give you kind of the CBD benefits. And if you're in a hotel room, I had a Recess last night watching the watching everything on TV, man. I listened to some albums. I listened to that Father John Misty album. I was gonna go back to that. That's a great album. It's the album cover has all these cartoons and wild illustrations, but what trips me out is the artist of that album. Like, that album cover has gone into a whole, for me, artistically, I'm like, ah, shit, that thing really popped. And the music kind of goes along with the art. That's when you do art, like when everything kind of fits. But, you know, I'm not looking for perfection, but, you know, but I was in Woodstock, and I was like, I wasn't going to do a podcast, but I'm like, dude, this place is legendary, like, peace, love. You know, Jerry Garcia and fucking Jimi Hendrix ripped it up on this hill over here in 1969. Biggest concert. I mean, that started the whole festival thing, where Bonnaroo, South by Southwest, everything, it all came from, I mean, there was always big shows, but in terms of like, yo, we're going to fill up a couple football fields full of people and they're going to camp out and do a bunch of LSD and drugs and rock out to tunes all night long. Woodstock was the first ones to do that shit. So hippies have been all, I mean, the vibe here, it does fit my vibe. Like, just going into the stores, everybody's kind of nice, and I think people meditate, and then the people don't. It doesn't matter, but there's just a nicer vibe, you know? You just feel it when you get out of New York. And I'm not ragging on New York. I do love me some Brooklyn, and it's just in my bones. I do love Brooklyn. But I do love nature. I love them both. You know, a lot of that is just finding the best of both worlds. And that's something that I've always thought about. You know, I'm not 100% vegan, but my wife wanted to get meatballs last night. I was like, fuck that, I ain't getting a meatball. Give me the fucking crab cake. Give me some, and give me that kale salad. That's what I had last night. That was my New Year's meal, and it was absolutely delicious. My wife shared half of it, so she was digging all into my crab cake. But you know how that goes. You can't call them out. After we've been married for like 12 years, 13 years now, I can't call her, you know, we just share food. So she's all over my fucking crab cake, which is cool. Because I'm not trying to overstuff myself. I'm trying to be more mindful with like letting the food digest, enjoying the bites, and really feeling it, you know, getting down to like eating and breathing. Just, you know, what is living? Like, I don't think we've figured it out yet, man. Especially with wars and all this fucking drama and weird fucking Nazis and shit. I don't think we've figured out what it really means to be a human, you know? To be a human being, the top of the food chain. Yeah, you could talk about lions and sharks and all this shit, but, you know, we build atom bombs and, you know, the brain is just like microwaves. We built microwaves. We got smartphones. We're doing podcasts. I don't see any other animals doing that shit. So I think there is some type of responsibility to evolve forward and really be conscious of the moves that we're all making. And because it is just one organism, you know? It's like the skin. They say the biggest organ of your body is your skin, you know? And we all are, like, if you just looked at the globe as a face, like the people, you know, the animals and the people, that's the skin. So I think we've got to moisturize the skin, you know, get some tea tree oil, get back to a little bit of the hippy dippy, you know? You know what I'm saying? I am enjoying this coffee. Oh, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, the Father John Misty album. It's like acoustic and story writing, and I Wikipedia'd it last night. I know I'm behind this thing came out in 2010, and as you know, time during the 2000s is all over the map. And so I just slept on it. I saw it around. You know, I'm not into super alt rock, and definitely, you know, I'm not pumping like what's that shit? Like some of those bands that came out. Fleet Foxes, I think, is where the dude came from. Or there was like a big rush of bands in the early 2000s. The one of them I liked was Yeah, Yeah, Yeah. So I thought that chick was badass. And that one song, But it sounded a lot like Love and Rockets. Like you could tell, like they kind of ripped Love and Rockets a little bit. But they did their own thing to it. And that chick is badass. Shout out to Karen O if I ever run into you. But that was a very vibrant. That was in Brooklyn. That's right when I moved. I moved in and out of Brooklyn from 2001. I went back to San Francisco for a while. Like, I'm going to go visit it. My friend Nico lived in Williamsburg, and he moved in Williamsburg in Brooklyn in the early 90s, like 91. And he had this loft. He had a 10-year lease, and he rented out the little rooms in it. But it was now it's a Mac store. And literally Apple had to buy his ass out. And they gave him a free apartment. This dude literally went to the first like Minor Threat shows in DC, Bad Brain shows. He was like the arty kid on my block in DC, and was into punk rock, was in all these bands. He played funk. He's a brilliant keyboardist. But he lives up here now, and I'm gonna go visit him. But right when I moved to New York, I was going to say was, the dude from TV on the radio worked at the coffee shop. There was this like creative, weird thing going on. And that's right when the Yeah Yeah Yeahs and Karen O kind of all popped out. And I was knee deep into comedy. You know, I like alt rock and the music scene, but anything that plays itself too cool for school, I call a little suspect on it. But if the vibes are right, And that John Father Misty album is got good vibes. I dig it, man. It's inspiring. Good art. But they had some really cool albums. There's a Bob Dylan album. I've been going deep back into Bob Dylan. I've been reading these Bob Dylan books. My brother-in-law is really into Bob Dylan. And he's just a fascinating, I never was like all in with Dylan, the singer-songwriter thing, but as I look back and look at his catalog, and he's still alive and all the shit he's done, and he's kind of just stayed himself through all of it. He's not nice, he's not cool, he just does his own thing. He's a little weird and funky, but in terms of art, just cranking it out full speed ahead. And just cranked out some of the best shit, and just didn't even think about it. Keep it moving. And I think he found his essence. A lot of it's all of us trying to find our essences there. But to tap into your essence and work with it unfiltered and make decisions from a natural place, that goes against the grain sometimes, in terms of taste, just with art and all this shit, like you just never know how things will play out. But I'm gonna walk around. Hopefully, maybe this waterfall might be too much noise, but I'm gonna walk up because I'm gonna walk up to walk down the road a little bit. We're gonna be in the woods, slightly, but there's a dude coming down here to clean this like little fire pit landing that I was chilling at. And I always get kind of self-conscious if I'm podding out, if I'm doing the podcast and people roll up because they're like, what is this fucking weirdo? Because I'm literally taping this into my phone and walking around. I'm walking through the woods of Woodstock, New York with you. 2000, I just went all in on this podcast and I love doing it. And, I'm seeing all these places and I'm getting a better camera, getting better at the audio equipment, getting better at the graphic design, and just like putting this thing all together. And hopefully we'll start doing shows. Oh, I want to get the artist Dima on the podcast. That's one of my dudes that I want to get. I want to get cool artists. I want to get musicians. I want to get comedians. Even just regular people. Sometimes regular, just randos are sometimes interesting, and sometimes talking to yourself is cool too. But I just wanted to say peace and love, and 2021, let's try to stay safe till April. I'm gonna get stuck with this vaccine as soon as they give me the chance. I'll take it. I've always gotten the flu shot. I know what the flu shot is. Yeah, your arm gets sore. It's not a big deal. So you might as well rock it like that, you know? Well, I don't know. You could do what you want. Vaccine's a whole other thing. But my personal thing is I want to get this shit done. I want to start shooting this at coffee shops and drinking good espressos, and weed is getting legal, and I'll roll super joints. Get all my stoner friends over the years on the show eventually. And it's not about pot, it's more about vibe, but sometimes weed is good. I got a little bit left, and I'll do that after I drive. But I just wanted to come up here and just tell you I appreciate you. Please like and subscribe. Support the Patreon. We gotta get some more Patreon people up on there. My Patreon is coffee, Rob Cantrell Coffee. And yeah, donate, get it down, man. I think if you feel the vision, you feel the vibe, we can do it. I stretched like a motherfucker today. This morning, I think my sciatic nerve, which is your back. As you get older, young bucks, or anybody, but stretching is key. Being flexible in the moment, always being flexible. There's some like Zen Buddhist things, like if you stay stiff and rigid and strong, you're eventually going to get broken. But if you stay loose and cool and flexible, you know, you can work through even a lot of the most difficult shit, you know? And I'm sure difficult shit's going to happen going forward, but I'm sure some brilliant, awesome, mind-blowing existence is going to happen too. A lot of it is just me just letting go, you know? Just absolutely any judgment of thought what's going to happen next, you know, I just want to let that go. And just like what I'm practicing is clearing my mind completely and going with what I feel, like using more of my heart and my nervous system and my body, and going, okay, the vibes this way feel good. Vibes over here feel kind of sketch and dark. I might back out a little bit. You know what I'm talking about. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But it's a beautiful mountain. There's a church there. I'm enjoying the coffee. I think legalization on the East Coast is going to be a major thing. I think small business is a major thing. I think supporting small businesses, this is a small boutique little hotel that I'm staying at. So this is probably like one family that owns it. They probably hire like 100 to 50 people. So, you know, you want to keep the money moving around the small business. Like I dig Walmart and all that. I do all that shit, CVS, you know. But if I can move the money around and buy, you know, organic herb from a dude, or, you know, craft beer or small cheese, all that small batch I've been talking about. It's kind of where I want to go in this new future. You know, I really think, you know, I'm doing this on my phone. I'm uploading it. You know, if this was 10 years ago, it really would be a $50,000 production if you're going to get audio and studio people and mixing people. So ain't nothing to it but to do it. But I hope to, I've been writing a bunch of stand-up, and I've been working on music, and I've been doing the podcast. So I've been staying busy, and I auditioned for a bunch of TV shows, almost got something, didn't click, but you never know, man. I'm not super actor cat, but I'm working on it, and I do enjoy being on set. If it's not like super entrenched, it's fun work. I like being on set. You get free food, there's free coffee, interesting cats. They point the camera at you, you say the words, and you know, you get your little shine, and then you keep it moving. And it's not like, oh, I'm in this job for 10 years. It's just like, yo, this is like 5 days of work. So a lot of this like hustle, gig economy, I've already been doing. And I think that's where a lot of this is going. Except for maybe like Zoom is blowing up right now. And the vaccine, Pfizer, they're killing it. But I don't know, man. We made it through 2020. I mean, it was hairball there for a minute. And I just want to say thank you for everybody that listened. Thank you for liking, subscribe, send it around. Thank you to all the guests. Let me just get a shout out to all the funky, fresh guests I had. Bill Burr was an amazing guest. He just isn't a stoner. Like, I wouldn't see him on Doug Benson's, not that I'm doing, but it's like to get him to do the Cannabis Coffee Hour and be down and just talk about drums and music, because I know stoners love talking about, at least the stoners I'm trying to get to, down with, like, you know, heavy music and heavy coffee, good shit. And Bill knows his shit when it comes to rock drumming, for sure. That and helicopters and stand-up. He's a professional. And he's just a good dude to talk to. A couple of the other cats. Mark Theobald, my good friend, writer for The Last OG, was on the podcast. Marina Franklin, one of the best comics out there. Cool female, lives in Harlem. I've known her since she was 26. Dope as fuck, funny as hell. There's so many other cats. Dan Curry, the executive producer. I'm dropping names here, but he's the executive producer of the Eric Andre show. Vince Averill, punk rock podcast, fucking wrestling cat. But yeah, I got a lot of friends in New York I haven't asked, and I just want them, if you're listening to this, and be like, yo, Rob, I smoke with, what's the deal? Why haven't we done a podcast? I'm like, I'm getting to it. I'm just trying to lay down the found work, and then we're going to be all on. I used to do this podcast when I first got to New York, it was on internet radio. And we were on really cool, like, it was all music. And we were up there with some really heavy DJs, like these guys from The Rub. I don't know, there's a couple, like, heavy cats that were on there. But at Rondell Hartley, I want to give it, from Brooklyn, New York. Rondell's a stand-up comic, and he tours opening for Tony Woods. And he was my good friend from the Boston Comedy Club. And we had a podcast where we listened to old hip-hop and comedy records. It was internet radio, and people weren't sure of the rights and all that shit. It wasn't like today, where they have algorithms that pick up if you play some weird music or shit. Or I don't know how these DJs get away with it on YouTube and Instagram. I'm not sure. Shout out to D Nice. I'm friends with D Nice, the guy that DJs on Instagram and the legendary hip hop BDP crew. I've met him a few times. He actually lived in my neighborhood, and I would run into him, and then we had mutual friends. So he was always, and that guy's inspiring in terms of hustle. Like, he literally owns Instagram now. Like, his DJ shows on Instagram. Check out D Nice on Instagram if you're just looking for some great music, like laid back. Check out that cat. And if you ever get a chance, like, he spun at Obama's inauguration, like Obama would have him. Because those guys, I mean, it's like, those guys are like kind of my age. Like, that's the thing. Like, I'm getting older, I'm looking around like, oh, these are the people that are running shit. I know these people. They grew up on the same shit I know. I don't know. But all the guests, man, who else have we had on that I just loved having on? Oh, Creeper Cholo Fit. That dude, he's hilarious. Check him out. He was awesome to have on the podcast. There's just been, every guest has been cool. My man Mookie Thompson and Guy Obelam. So many. But I just want to say thank you, and I hope you guys have a great 2021. Peace and love. I am out.
Discovery, go at throttle up.